Oh, thank you. To call this meeting to order, if you would, follow along with the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Marshall, would you like to share a prayer with us?
Hey, Mayor, really quick, could we establish the quorum before whatever is going to happen? Can I just call the roll really quick? I'm so sorry, Marshall.
Sure.
LeBlanc. Yes. Rodriguez.
Here.
Howden.
Here.
Milton.
Yep.
Cooper.
Here.
Denham.
Here.
Fentone.
Here.
Will you bow your heads with me, please? Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and the beautiful weather that we're having. The opportunity to gather together as citizens and community leaders to discuss things that are important for the future of our city, as well as the livelihood of our citizens and our visitors alike. Please give us wisdom as we embark on this meeting where we discuss the beauty of enjoying those outdoors that you've given us. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Marshall. So on our agenda is we're going to get a presentation from our Trails Task Force. Cindy, anything you want to share with us?
Welcome back, Mayor. No, I'm really excited to be here. So, Mr. Mayor, members of the board, I want to introduce some of our Trails Task Force, people that probably need no introduction. Ty Lewis is here, and he's going to be presenting, and also Tara Alfonso. And also, we've got our Trails Task Force member, Curtis Copeland here, who's a historian and avid hiker. So I want to turn it over to Ty.
Hello, Ty and Tara.
Hello, how is everyone tonight? Yeah, we're going to kind of share the mic and go back and forth here. So, how's it ready? All right, to get started, we just wanted to share with you a brief history of how we got here and kind of why we're here with you specifically tonight. Touch on the mission and the vision that's been defined by the Trails Task Force, touch on the benefits of trails. We'll present some examples of success from our neighbors. We hope at the end we'll have sparked some interest in discussing possibilities and next steps. So to get us started, Ty is going to kick off things. He's going to cover the history, the vision, the mission, and benefits.
Hi, guys. Thank you very much. We're not going to go super deep in the history, but I do want to say something. We're going to roll through this pretty quickly so that if at the end we can have a little bit more of a discussion. I think that'd be very helpful. So I do apologize. I'll try to go slow enough to make sure it's legible.
Why'd you look at me when you said you're going to go slow?
What? It meant nothing personal. So the overarching thing is, historically, the city of Branson has already adopted a master trails plan in 2003. So historically, that's probably the most significant thing. And today we want to try to build off of that and provide next steps for updating it and supporting it. And we have some thoughts and some ideas on how to do that. A lot has happened since 2003. The map to your left is our current trail system. There may be one or two other ones sparkled in there. And then the trail map on the right, that is part of the master trails plan that shows where connections are to be made, where gaps can be filled, and trying to link the ones that you see on the left together with other common sense and available trails. And so here we're gonna go on. So here's what we've accomplished so far. Like we said, the Master Trails Plan, wait, is that, I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong one. This never happens to anybody, does it? Oh, okay, great. And that's slide 3. I said I was going to be fast, right? So back in 2003, there was a trails group within the city, and Matt Felice, people remember Matt, he was in engineering, is that right? Engineering department. He kind of was dedicated with a focus, and he had the bandwidth to kind of pull a lot of that trail system that you saw together. Today, they're still doing an awesome job, but there is still just kind of this void of somebody to be able to just 100%, that's all they do, and move that ball forward. In 2022, the Branson Chamber and CVB completed a 10-year destination strategic plan, and it was clear that interest in more trails is desired by both residents and visitors. These were via surveys, both visitor surveys and resident surveys. I know you're nodding your head, you're familiar with a lot of those. And in 2022, the task force, the Trails Task Force, which I'm the chair of, I guess I should say that, I decided that I would get out of the Marketing Oversight Committee and some of the other committees that I'm on, like sports, and just say, you know what, let's just focus on trails. That's what I really want to dig into, so that kind of gives you a little background there. So we had our first official task force meeting in 2022 on March 9th. We had 9 in attendance that first one. Today, it's grown to over 60 plus. We have reps that attended from the city, from the state, and several private individuals. One thing that we did, we hadn't had one for almost 20 years, was we had a regional trail summit, and we invited Ozark Greenways, Trail Spring, Forsyth. We even had some folks from Northwest Arkansas that are part of the Walton Foundation and the Runway Group come, and he was our keynote speaker. And it was very well attended, and so much so that they're all waiting for another one. So we're happy that we got that going. The mission on the Trails Task Force. The mission of the Trails Task Force is to develop purposeful planning to connect existing trail systems while creating new multi-use trails and those assets surrounding them. It's to the benefit of residents and visitors. So when we were looking at purposeful, it comes down to low-hanging fruit. Where's the low-hanging fruit, and what are the projects that have been identified? So, the Parks Department has done an awesome job on creating a lot of low-hanging fruit and really teeing some balls up pretty high on a tee that I think can be knocked, for extra yardage if we just kind of keep our eye on that ball. The Roark Valley Heritage Trail is a big one. That runs all the way up the valley, and there would be a hopeful goal to reach Henning and Ozark Mountain, Shepherd of the Hills State Park. The vision for this includes everything from alternative transportation, improved resident quality of life, recreation, health and safe routes, or affordable transportation for our workers. I hear a lot of talk about affordable housing, and these affordable folks that need affordable housing need affordable transportation. They also need safe routes to get back and forth to work. And so establishing bike-friendly lanes or trails that would pull people off of the roadways and get them on something safer and more recreational. I want to back up one more step, if you don't mind, Tara. There's a couple of other, in addition to the Roark Valley Heritage Trail, I don't need to tell you guys, you have 168 acres behind the Recplex that is very exciting, and again, there is a strategic plan, I understand, for that as well. That will pay dividends down the road, but we can talk about that later. And then finally, one of the other big pieces of low-hanging fruit is just updating the Master Trails Plan and getting it current, and then using that as a guiding document. So I'm going to go back to significant projects along the Roark Valley Heritage Trail. We talked about that. Yep, there we go. So significant projects. A pump track. We'll talk about what a pump track is in a little bit, but you can see a picture of one in the upper left-hand corner there. Adventure routes, which would be utilizing the existing trails and pulling adventure routes. And Tara will show you guys kind of what we're talking about there in a little bit. This 168 acres, I think I mentioned that. If you're a mountain biker or you like soft trails, this thing is super thrilling. It's received support in funding this year. We recognize that this graphic you're looking at above is a concept drawing. It's not necessarily how the land will look in the end, but again, the potential for return on investment, every dollar spent in that park or in that trails will really pay off events and engagement of your community. I think I'd mentioned in 2023, the Trails Task Force hosted a Trails Summit. There's a guy named Gary Vernon. Gary was the head of the Walton Foundation for years, and then he started working as kind of the trails guru of Northwest Arkansas for Tom and Stuart Walton. And he goes around and speaks, and he goes around and helps other communities with their initiatives on trails. And as many cool things as Northwest Arkansas has, and especially in their trail system, there was one thing that we really took pride in, and he was jealous of Branson. He was actually jealous, and we said, well, what do we have that you don't have in Northwest Arkansas? He said, Branson has better topography in the city than we'll ever have in Bentonville. So he said, you guys have so much opportunity to expand on your bike culture. And he really pushed that word, and that's something that we're going to talk about hopefully today later, is bike culture, and what does that mean, and how do we create it in our own backyard? I'm going to turn this over to Tara.
All right, so we included this slide to really kind of capture the timeline and the history here. We know that what we're looking at and talking about as a Trails Task Force is not going to happen overnight. You know, what started as a vision down in Northwest Arkansas transformed to a plan that has seen tremendous success because of the human and financial resources dedicated to that plan. Switching gears here, if you saw our slides before this meeting, you probably would have thought there's no way they're getting through this in 10 or 15 minutes. So we all know the saying, you know, a picture equals 1,000 words, right? So we're going to breeze through several of these pictures, just showing you what our neighbors have done so you can kind of vision with us, imagine with us what we could do with our great community here. All right, so this connection of 180 miles, a bigger picture vision, has taken place and grown in their area. Here we've got what's part of a 4-mile trail that could be our Roark Valley Heritage Trail, with all sorts of cool examples of masterpiece events, coffee shops along the course, different, more challenging things that I might have done in my 20s, but not so much now. Maybe my kids will pick that one up next. So lots of just really cool designs that they've added. And as Ty mentioned earlier, a pump track, this might even be something we could put in down in the Stockstill area, as that floods in that area from time to time, as we know. But this would be something that could easily flood, water goes away, and you're back to business and having something for the community to enjoy, and potentially having rights holders and event organizers to come in and host events there as well to drive more tourism if that was a direction that we wanted to design that in. And it would be, like I said, along that Roark Valley Heritage Trail. Some other cool castle-like designs they have down in our neighbors' area, some great greenway experiences with art, and in our area, imagine telling our history a little bit along our pathways, so in a very different way, but Branson history along these pathways. As Ty mentioned, we want to work to get people off the roads, help get them to a safe place. And this is a huge thing for me. How do we get them to a safe space for walking and biking and getting to and from work economically so they can afford to do what we are grateful for that they do show up to do every day? And then, of course, let's start getting those kids out there, right? Get them out. Mom and dad are always looking for ways to get them off those devices. And if we can start them young, get them trained, and maybe they get out there in nature themselves and get away from that device and the stress as they grow older. So all the way through getting older, developing healthy activities and that create confidence in them as they grow up. I know Ty wanted to talk a little bit here about NICA.
NICA, Southwest Missouri has the largest, they field the largest team in the state of Missouri. And so that's pretty impressive that, you know, of the whole state, Southwest Missouri has the largest scholastic team.
And then on, you know, cycling we can do for many, many years. It brings people together of all ages and all demographics. And in Northwest Arkansas, they've even gone so far as to add school programs, certifications, and even brought the industry to the town. So there's, you know, other opportunities. We don't want to take from them, but we want to learn from our neighbors, both north and south, and grow and, you know, create our own for the future for our community. We can see here Northwest Arkansas's economic impact. This is from 2017, so I'm sure it's up quite a bit, but the number we got last from Gary was basically they're seeing an ROI of $16 to $1 invested. So kind of moving forward, looking back to the north, I'm going to turn it back to Ty.
We were named Best Trail State in 2013. That's quite a while ago, so I'm certain that we racked up a couple more since 2013. But, we've got the Katy Trail, and, that's north. But more closer to us in the north, we've got Ozark Greenways in Springfield, and we've got the Chadwick Flyer, if you guys have heard about this. Are you guys familiar with Chadwick Flyer? It's going to be a route that goes from Ozark, kind of where the OC is, and will link Ozark Community Center or their recreational center in their downtown to Springfield along the kind of by the nature center. And that project will, eventually then link up to the Frisco Trail, and then the Frisco it goes up to the Katy Trail. So I think that we should aim pretty high. We should say, how do we get to Ozark? Because if Branson can get to Ozark, then we can get all the way to the Katy Trail. So that was the significance of showing that slide, that we need to think more connecting our state and not just connecting our trails here. Important, but that one's a big one. So Ozark Greenways, Northwest Arkansas does things their way. Ozark Greenways does things their way. Their executive director, Mary Cromery, has been very supportive and helpful to us, and kind of talking about how you structure an organization, that it can morph over time. But the main thing is, and the lessons learned from both North and South, is that you really have to have key people or a person to have the bandwidth to focus on that, and then again outline your plans. And so we hope to, after this discussion, talk about those plans and re-engage you guys at another time as well. Closer to our north, Forsyth. Are you guys familiar? Forsyth has put in a 5.6-mile soft surface trail. It's phenomenal. They used all local engineer and trail builders. We got these people in our own backyard, so that's fantastic. And there it is. It's going to be kind of behind the school, Forsyth Schools and the Boys and Girls Club. Like I said, 5.6-mile trail opens March 9th. And then closer to us, Howler Bike Park. Again, phenomenal. Did we ever think we'd see a gravity park in the Ozarks? We do have one now. And in Branson, this is phenomenal. The 168 acres that I think can really rival kind of what they're doing at Howler, and really add to and bring another side dish to the picnic, if you will. And then beyond quality of life, kind of the overall benefits that we've been seeing with trails and with events are what Tara's going to talk about.
All right, back and forth, right? All right, so, like Ty mentioned, beyond the quality of life and overall economic benefits, with these trails, we can host larger events that allow us to market, tell our story further, drive more tourism. In the past, we've hosted Ironman, 70.3 triathlon, the Revolution 3 triathlon, Divas Half Marathon and 5K. If some of you remember those events, those were great events that drew new visitors, opened their eyes to our great community that continue to come back. These events provide those media opportunities that help share to the world that Branson has great outdoors and is on the map with great trails, especially as we continue to expand on those trails. We have worked closely with a company called Xterra Global, and they are excited to partner with us with our Branson Mountain Man Triathlon to bring an event this year in September 20th out at the lake. Branson Mountain Man Triathlon is taking it, with Xterra, we're taking it to the next level and introducing Branson at that global level with Xterra. So I'm going to show you a quick video so you can see a little bit about what they do. That video gets me ready to go. Anybody else ready to get on a bike and head out the trails? I met with Steve, the general manager of Xterra Global, at the Teams Conference in 2022. He came into town with one of the representatives last year, toured our community, came back for another site visit. They did choose to partner with us, as mentioned before, with Branson Mountain Man Triathlon to help grow that. And we're excited about what that's going to do. Long-term vision with that is let's host this event at the Lake Table Rock and then bring it all the way down to the Branson Landing, because there's a lot of opportunities as we connect with that, begin with that smaller Roark Valley Heritage Trail goal, even add in some paddling, maybe down Taneycomo. So there's a lot of great visioning going on there, and opportunities. Xterra Global only added Branson to their trails triathlon, off-road triathlon series last year. They did not add any other destination, so we're excited to be the only destination they added. So I'm going to turn it back over to Ty as we wrap it up.
I'm just going to jump to, again, residents and visitors are wanting better trails. We want the interconnectivity. I think it's, trails is something that everybody can kind of get on board, I think. But it's kind of the ask, and I think the ask is something that we ask each other, really, but we're asking of council is, next steps would be, can we review and update the adopted Master Trails Plan from 2003 would be step number one. And then ensure that it's a guiding document that we follow and we use it as purposeful momentum. A commitment to financial and human assets that we can get some dollars to invest into our trails systems, and a people or peoples to drive that initiative. That person would need to have bandwidth to move those objectives forward. They'd probably need a home. They'd need to reside somewhere. If it's here, if it's across the street, they need a place. Organizational structure would be important. And these are the conversations we think that we just need to start having and moving this forward. I think we've talked about trails for a number of years. And, but those are kind of the asks. And maybe you have some questions or some asks of us as well, and we'd be happy to answer that. We've got Curtis and Cindy here that can also lend, obviously, a lot of context to what we're talking about.
I might also add that one of the things we looked at when looking north and south too is obviously the model and how they funded their trail development is very different when you look south than it is when you look north. And our friend there in Ozark Greenways, Miss Mary Cromrie, has opened our eyes to a lot of opportunities where we can look at grants and things to help us along the way as we define what that funding might look like for us as we grow. And then we break everything down in little pieces and move towards that big picture in the future. So thank you all. If you have any questions.
I have a question. So where does majority of the costs come in when we're looking at developing these kinds of trails?
You've got costs involved with, and again, I'm no engineer, okay, but you've got costs with planning, engineering, design, but if you already have the land, which you all have, you're going to mitigate quite a bit of expense there. And having shovel-ready projects on the books, which you have, really helps getting funding grants from everything from IMBA, International Mountain Bike Association, to what's the state, RTP. I think Cindy's been successful at getting one of those. Have you? No, don't say that.
We're gonna do that again.
But there are plans or grants out there that we can apply for. Yeah.
So, and that's great, and that's the creative side of how to acquire like funding and things like that, which is obviously super important. But you mentioned some things in your presentation that I think are also equally as important, and it's the talented people that we have in our community already that like if I were a designer of some sorts or just had that kind of background in bike trailing and things like that, like how much collaboration would I love to have to be part of the design team as just a give back to my community kind of thing. So I think looking at those kinds of things when you're assembling people that are going to be that kind of like think tank, if you will, looking at people like that are willing to kind of give back to the community just to say, you know, it's like they're leaving their legacy. Like, man, I had a hand in developing that trail. And, you know, and also keeping in mind that, you know, the topography is great, but let's keep as much trees and as much, you know, and of that, you know, it's like using the natural lay of the land to develop those trails. And I think those people with that kind of insight and that kind of, you know, forethinking can be those people that do that for us, which in turn keeps a lot of that design cost down. And that's kind of where I was kind of leading toward that.
Yeah, and I'm not an engineer, but I have spoken with folks that do build trails, and when you're looking at soft surface trails, hand-cut soft surface trails, you know, it's in the $30,000 to $40,000 a mile, which sounds like a lot of money, but whenever you consider for every dollar spent, 16 comes back.
Simple question. What is a pump track?
I'm glad you asked. It's kind of a gravity track. So you remember the old BMX days? That's the best thing I could liken it to, is like a BMX track where instead of relying on pedaling through the course, you start up high and you push down and pull up and push down as you go over. So you're using inertia. You're using your own momentum to keep going along the track. And they're wildly successful and popular.
Is that more of an advanced type of ride or more aggressive?
No,
Extreme or?
Good question. All levels. You can see them for itty bitties, little kiddos, and all the way up to competitive. St. Charles, Missouri has one that is the largest one in the United States, and I think they hosted like a Red Bull championship. They've got, I think it's called Kinetic Park, but they have beginning all the way up to advanced. So it's really to foster growth, challenge yourself.
Hey, Ty,
Yes, sir.
could you go to the slide that shows the Ruth Henning map while you're getting there? You know, Mr. Mayor, this has been one of the most rewarding things that I've, you know, been able to be involved in is coming to these trail meetings a couple times. And, you know, we had that trail summit, and at one point I had taken a big map that Curtis made for me and marked it up with a Sharpie, and Ty had that laid out, you know. And so I think Cindy has been a helpful guiding force on that.
I remember seeing that.
Yeah, because, you know, she always says, we got to take this one step at a time, and Marshall's got these crazy ideas, you know. But the truth of the matter is that as we embark upon the redesign of the master plan, I think there are a lot of areas where it's going to take a lot of creativity. There's one part you might have to jump over Highway 76. There's one part you might have to jump over.
Jump over?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Or in a bike, right? But there's a couple things that I'd like to say. Hey, were we able to? Chad, did you? Sorry.
It's okay. I think we're stuck.
Okay.
I'll pull it up here. I'm trying to find which one you're looking for.
Gotcha. Well, a couple things. The first thing is, I think this whole, and I've talked about this in the Trail Task Force meetings, the Roark Valley Heritage Trail, I think that's an incredible name for the entire system. They could give us a theme, especially when we look at what they're bringing up now, which is the backside of Ruth Henning trails, which start over on 76 beyond the Butterfly Palace there. A lot of people don't know unless you do the entire thing where that comes out at on the other end, which is Sycamore Church Road.
Oh, I know which one you're talking about.
It also just so happens to, if you come out right there, you're seeing signs everywhere for the newest state park in the state of Missouri, which is basically right across that road there. And, you know, that includes some incredible history that, you know, Curtis's group has been involved in. And I think is really a way to kind of Bransonize a lot of this. Number one, that's the way we could get to Ozark ultimately, I feel, is to connect to that. If we made it, you know, the Roark Valley Heritage Trail System, Garber to Branson, talk about the old Garber Schoolhouse, so much history that, you know, Curtis has done great with his Society of Ozarkian Hillcroppers and everything he's involved in that. So I think it's really important to kind of keep those things in mind. And then the last thing I'll say is that, you know, we've got somebody in-house in Curtis Copeland that could be an incredible asset to this. I don't get to come to the Trails meetings every single time, and obviously I don't sit inside City Hall every day. And so I think as far as synergy and connecting what they're doing with the chamber, what they're doing with the task force, Curtis could be a really great asset if we can kind of empower you and give you the tools that you need to kind of make those day-to-day interactions that we need to further the master plan, to further all these crazy dreams that some of us have. I think I'm super excited about all the opportunities. I thank you guys so much for what y'all are doing, and I look forward to seeing what this could become. So.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Marsh.
Thank you, Ty and Tara, for the presentation. I just wonder, do any of the cities where the trails are being expanded, do the school districts ever participate with this cities?
That I know of, I do not know.
I've seen some great examples, but we'd have to go.
Yeah, I know that a lot of them, again, the school doesn't field bike teams, but, there are definitely a lot of high school, junior high age children that are, participating in mountain biking as a club sport.
Yeah, I meant with funding, any type of funding from the school
Funding from the
districts.
schools, I have not heard of anything. It seems to be mostly from cities, parks. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I haven't asked the question though either, so we probably could ask and find out for you too.
Okay, thank you.
No, that's good.
Cindy, would you come up to the mic, please? What I just heard is, it seems like there's a couple different approaches, and not to say we can't work on both at the same time, but one was more of a local system, right? And the other one was, wouldn't it be great if we could end up connecting Ozark, and that opens up a whole world, right? So fill in that little gap. Have you had an opportunity on the land behind the Recplex to do any, looking at topos, any preliminary layouts? I don't know.
Sure, so one of those slides, Chad, is part of the presentation. I'm not sure, it's probably a couple from here, was kind of just a drawing. I'm not sure where it was, Ty, do you remember? Right there.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the land that Ty's talking about. This is the land behind the Recplex that you all acquired a few years ago so we have not done anything with it, other than I was able to get Rogue Trails, wrangled them into just creating kind of a drawing, because it serves
Just using the topography.
Yes,
that's
just
there.
using the
Yeah, yeah.
topography. Because it shows a visual representation. And one of the things that Tara mentioned was when Xterra was here, they actually went and rode this. And so there is some great topography on there that definitely lends itself to mountain biking, right? It really does, because it's really hilly. And so we're excited about this. So if you remember, as part of the 2024 capital project, you all approved some funding for a concept or a master trail plan for this land specifically. So we've had some initial conversations. We're working on a request for proposal, haven't quite got there yet, but we are doing that this year. So that is just phenomenal that the city is supporting that and funding that. We're very excited about that. And you can see this is really a regional effort. I mean, with Ty and Tara, and especially Curtis, there's a lot of folks that are coming to the table that, we want to create that purposeful planning to connect existing trail systems. And so I think this is part of it. So it's not just the city, for sure. It's Howler and everybody else. But I do think that what we're lacking a little bit is, as Kathy likes to say, bandwidth. And so there is no really key point person, and we are struggling to have enough time. And so, and what Curtis and I would like to see is, kind of this interdepartmental group. And we haven't been able to kick that off either, just because there's a lot going on. There's a lot of amazing projects in the city of Branson, and we're so blessed to be here in this time, but can't do everything at once, right? And so we feel like, really, again, leaning on Curtis' expertise and his knowledge, being a part of this for 20 years, Parks is part of it, the planning department is part of it, the engineering department. So you need all those things to get easements and to have planning. It's not just a parks thing for sure. It's a lot of expertise that needs to go into that. And then there really needs to be a point person. And when Matt Felice was here, and this was quite a few years ago, probably nobody here except me, maybe, and Curtis worked with Matt. He was the assistant city engineer, but for whatever reason, there was a portion of his time kind of carved out. And so during that time, we made some strides with some of our trails, like at Stocksole and different places, and we were able to connect. And since that, and then Garrett Anderson took up the mantle for a little while he was here. And so that kind of pivoted to our department. And we've definitely done some things, but we would, I think having a little bit more dedicated resources would help us. But it's really an exciting time, and we're grateful for the CBB and putting this together and having a great discussion about trails. So that's kind of my 2 cents.
Thank you for sharing that. I do see the benefits of this. I also appreciate when Kathy says that we're stretched on our bandwidth, right? You're working on a couple things.
Yes.
Right, between the turf project, campground.
Campground project, yeah.
Improving our neighborhood parks,
Sure.
right?
We've got a grant that we're waiting to hear back on that to see if we can get some grant funding before moving forward with kind of funding that. But so, yeah, a lot of good things happening.
Yeah. So, Ty and Tara, thank you for presenting this. What was your intent or your ask? I know you just raised our awareness of all these great possibilities.
Really, it was all that, raise awareness, and the ask is to sit down probably again with key stakeholders, whether it be city, CVB, county, state, and say, how do we, again, form our own culture from the inside here at the city and get a person focused on this, or persons. It could be 20 hours a week, it could be 40, it could be 80 hours. There is no rule, there are no rules right now. This is really for us to determine. So it's really just getting stakeholders in a room and saying, we know we need resources of a person, they need a place to reside and do their work from, and they have to have a guiding document. And right now, the city of Branson seems to have the best assets and low-hanging fruit to really push that trails message and, again, tell that story, like with the Xterra. Whenever we have trails and we have events, we get that media. But it's not just about the media. It's also about this quality of life. I was just talking with somebody in here. They said, do you live in Branson or where do you live? I said, I'm living in Springfield. And I said, are you going to move to Branson again? I go, I might, but I said, I live off the South Creek Greenway Trail. I can jump out my front door and ride from my house all the way out to Wilson's Creek Battlefield if I want, and that's important to me. So I like to do that. So those are the types of things we should incentivize residents to want to stay here, live here, and attract that workforce. So I went off on a little tangent. Sorry, Kathy, you're nodding like, yeah, keep going. But really, it's just to sit down in a room together and say, how do we have that next step conversation and those things? A person, funding, and follow the Master Trails Plan. I think it's that simple.
Are you suggesting or asking that this be a paid city position to run, when you say that person?
Yeah.
Or
it could be.
Or someone that's already here that you would dedicate that to, or, but that's
it could be. Yeah, it could be.
Several different ways.
Right, and to see who's willing to help fund this, right? It doesn't have to just all fall in the city. There's county people that, these trails affect everybody. There may be private donors. You don't know until we get out and, again, ask them and say, hey, here's the support the city's providing. We've got a plan, we've got a vision, we've got projects. Are you willing to come alongside? Yep, jump in.
We've talked a lot at the task force meetings about how this goes beyond the city. So it's kind of like start here with our city, get more people to the table and say, it may be like Ozark Greenways. It's a separate nonprofit organization that has that leadership there, but the city has their core group because the city's part is important too. So has that core group and having that one leader that is then connecting with all of those stakeholders to make sure we grow in the city and beyond. So.
Yeah. Tara makes a great point. Ozark Greenways, we do use them as an example because they're kind of like the OG, right? They're the Ozark Greenways. And they're the, you like that. They've said, look, you can morph into a bunch of different organizational structures. You don't have to start, you just need to start somewhere and be flexible to pivot whenever that time comes. And if it means, hey, it's a part of the city, and then someday the city goes, hey, look, you guys are doing great. We've got these projects. We'll still continue to support you. But, financially, they're kind of, they receive funding from various places and not just one. So, and they're very willing to help us in kind of identifying what works for us.
But, Ty, the thing is, and I want to laud your leadership for a second. You and Tara have done such a great job of leading this up. Fair enough. Y'all have done such a good job of leading this whole thing up, and there's so much energy and there's so much dedication that's gone behind this. But it's like, so now we come in front of the board, and this is one study session. Next month, we'll have a different one on a different topic, and then maybe 6 months comes down the road, we'll have a charrette here, and you know how things kind of fall through the cracks kind of thing. So it's like, it's not that we don't have leadership and we don't have people. I think there is a case to be made that there needs to be some kind of a central focal point here at City Hall to even connect to what you guys are doing, so that there's a day-to-day connection with the engineering department and with GIS and with everything that involves. So I think it's not a dearth of leadership. It's just a matter of kind of connecting all the pieces and making sure a day-to-day understanding of where we're at is kind of followed through upon. So,
Mayor, if I may, first of all, to TNT, and AC/DC is kind of ringing through my head right now.
We're dynamite.
I know, that's awesome. But I had the good fortune of sitting down with these folks and with Cindy and Curtis and a few other folks and talking this through, and we are way behind the curve. And when we were talking about economic development recently, this is a huge economic development driver, and we are we're late to the dance, but I think we can still get a couple of electric slides in, right? So how about that for dating myself? But I just want to tell you my commitment on this. I was very excited to talk to these guys, and their enthusiasm is infectious. I think this is something we can really make a go of here in Branson. And you're right, I agree, we'd need one dedicated person. I think it would end up being a full-time person to be able to kind of get this off the ground. Probably house it in parks. Those are all things we can talk about behind the scenes. But it will be a subcommittee across departments in the city that would have to be involved in the conversations. But to me, to invest, I don't know, 45, 50,000, whatever it might be for this person, just for the salary, but to really get something like this going, I could see this paying back dividends in very, very short amount of time. Not to mention the dividend of the quality of life. It's huge. So thank you for everything you two have done and your advocacy and your hard work. But I, at the direction of the board, would be 100% in.
Well, I thank you, and I would Roger Rabbit your electric slide.
So saying that, Kathy, are you looking for maybe a consensus from the board to move forward?
Yeah, I'd like to find out, I think this could be part of our conversation in economic development initiatives, just like the sports industry is another one of those legs of economic development that we should be pursuing more of. Again, it's your direction. But yeah, I'd like to make sure that you guys are on board with us pursuing, at a minimum, you've already approved the funding, like Cindy said, for the plan to be developed for this particular property, and what can we do with that? That's dipping our toe in the water, but to me, I'm like, I would really love to see us wade in even deeper and get this thing going. So if we can get that kind of consensus on that direction, that'd be very helpful to me.
So how's the board feel?
I'm all behind it. I think it's and like she said, important and absolutely.
Ruth?
I'm in total support of this.
Joey? This side?
Yeah.
Chuck?
I'm in total agreement with Kathy here. I am a bike rider. We have a group here from Downhill Bikes. There's a police officer here that's in that too. They do bikes and burgers every Thursday, sometimes on Sunday. I go down to Bella Vista all the time. I was just down there yesterday. Their tracks are amazing. I've probably seen more people on bikes than I've seen cars. They're phenomenal. If we do this, if we can get one of their engineers that made those, it's just amazing down there. It makes you want to move there. It's great. I'm all for it.
Mr. LeBlanc, do you have a short response?
Short response is yes, absolutely. Longer response is, this project, that land we already have, we have that land. Like, that's the hardest thing in doing any of these projects is land acquisition, and we have that land, and it's just just seeing that rough in, I'm just like, yeah, me and Chuck are going ride. I mean, it gets you exciting. I have a bike already, Chuck. We can go. I'm in. Let's go.
So Kathy, that answer your question? TNT, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. I also want to thank Cindy and Curtis and Tara. Just, you got great employees here, you know that. But thank you guys publicly for helping keep us motivated too. Thanks.
And Pam, I'm sure it goes without saying, Chamber CVB's completely supportive, yeah. So let's make it happen, Kathy.
Thank you all very much.
Do I have a motion? Any comments from the board? No? Do I have a motion to adjourn the study session?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. Thank you very, very much. Thank you, Kadai.